Hey everyone, it's Donna here again, inviting you to today's self-love reunion speaker, and I am super excited. First, I invite you to hit the subscribe button, and just to remind everyone, this self-love reunion was put together because 1 in 2 women across the globe actually have more self-doubt than self-love. This reunion is here to help transform and help people get into that space of deeper self-respect, because love is the most powerful force in existence. I'll see you on the inside. Well, hello everyone. It's Donna here again at the Art of Self-Love reunion. And here we are, we're revitalizing the human spirit at these incredible times that we're all dealing in right now. Today and this next hour, I have a special guest with me here today, Khea. Lisa is the owner of Imbalance Pilates. She's a best-selling author. She works with Pilates, PiYo, and she's a bar instructor who specializes in offering online support for those with persistent post-concussion symptoms. She's the creator of the online breathing and posture program called Breathe into Calm and Healthy Brain and Optimal Posture, which offers at-home Pilates, mindset, meditation, community, and support. Lisa was a co-author in the best-selling book called Women Who Inspire. Her story of resisting things in business until a concussion forced many changes in life lessons. Lisa's also featured in a community book project celebrating 365 days of gratitude. Healing through sharing stories is part of the resilience and self-love that Lisa now brings to her work. And in all of this, she is leading her own book projects to start to help others to share their stories and to write new ones. Lisa, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
Hi, Donna. Thank you so much for having me. This is just wonderful. It's great to be here. It's great to see you.
Good.
And it's great to be on this self-love journey with you.
Right. Well, self-love, it's a big thing. And what everyone's learning as we are here together, that it's such inner and outer work. And I think when I look at just sure, I read a little bit of a bio there, but I think one of the interesting things, and I'll say sort of even from a vulnerable space perhaps, is you're working and your work is outrightly with concussion, right? You don't have something that's hidden that others people potentially don't see as part of someone's journey. So I'm really curious to have you, over our time together, share a bit about that and how you came to do this. Certainly, so maybe you can give us a little bit of storyline leading up to life pre and now, I'll say post, or wherever you are within this journey. So share with us, please.
Sure, sounds good. I have taught Pilates for 20 years. I originally got into it because of a back injury. I had some things going on with my back, and my posture was a mess. The pictures of my posture back then were, it's just, very rounded shoulders, hyperextended knees, and a lot of, yes, everyone sits up taller when they talk.
As you speak,
so I got into it because of a back injury, really helped with my breathing, mindfulness, getting rid of chronic pain, that kind of thing. So Pilates was definitely a godsend for the back issues and posture issues. And at the time of the injury, I had my studio for 11 years. So I had a brick and mortar where I taught one-on-one Pilates, some group classes, and like semi-private. So I have all the fun Pilates equipment. If you've ever been on a reformer or
I have not, but that's okay.
Oh, well, I'll have to get you on. And I have 2 here in the room next door. And so Pilates was just a great way to get into that mind body, very similar to yoga in that way, with the mind body and, focus on the breath and mindfulness and stability, strength, all of that. So At the time, as I said, I'd had my studio for 11 years, and it was definitely, at the time in my life where, we've all heard that story of Oprah saying, the messages will whisper to you, and if you don't hear those whispers, you will get hit upside the head until you learn that lesson. Okay. So that is literally what happened to me. And funny enough, it was the day before that injury, and I had a really great session with like an intuitive business coach. And I had realized there were certain changes in my business that I had wanted to make, because when I originally opened my studio, it was before I had children, before I was married. So life was very different. It was easy to work 4 nights a week, all weekend, right? When life changes in that magical way of adding children and family to the mix, you really need to be constantly readjusting those priorities and be very real with boundaries and what are your priorities, and be real with family time and all that stuff. So I was definitely at a point where I knew I didn't want to be working 4 nights a week, but I was that kind of people pleaser personality. And maybe I was thinking in my head, well, I don't really want to be working on Sunday, but I would still say yes to the client, right? So it was just, part of those personality things that we learn about ourselves, and maybe those times that we realize that we weren't giving ourselves enough self-love, because when we're not having, those internal checks on our standards and boundaries, that is, saying something about the level of self-love that you're at, right? So being real with, just those check-ins, which we always get better with evolution and time and lessons that we learn and people like you that we meet along the way. And so, yeah. So anyways, so I had realized some things that day before the injury, about, what I wanted to do with my studio, but I had kind of thought those things before and never acted on them. So of course the universe said, okay, we've heard you again loud and clear. And the very next day, it was a very cartoon injury. I went into my garage to get a broom to broom off some leaves, and I didn't see that heavy comb rake, like the heavy flat rake, was leaning against the wall. So I walked at it with like all my speed and force and stepped on it, and it clocked me in the head like a bat.
Wow.
Yes. So, and then of course, me thinking, being self-employed, thinking it was a cartoon injury, big goose egg, laid around that afternoon, but went to the studio that night, taught 2 things in a row. The next day I think it was 7 hours in a row of whether it was privates or semi-privates. And I was wondering, like, why am I not spitting my words out properly? Like, yes, I had a big headache and I wasn't feeling right and balance was off, but I didn't know I had a concussion. I just thought, what a silly cartoon injury. That's kind of right. And again, when you're self-employed and you don't have a boss that maybe has had to be notified about this injury, right? And then someone's kind of maneuvering through what you should and shouldn't be doing, that's like a whole other ball game.
Well, and I think, not to cut you off, but I'm like, even if you hit yourself, your first reaction would just be like, exactly, this cartoon, what the heck? And you wouldn't, sure, I've got a throbbing, but then it's going to be a bruise and that's fine, right? Yeah.
So over the next course of the couple days, it got progressively very worse, and then went to the doctor a couple times in that time. So at one point was told, go do the 48 hours of darkness. Quickly learned later in hindsight so many things, like take out all decisions. If you hit your head or you have a fall or have any jarring that it could be a concussion, like in those first few days, take out every decision making. You're not picking out clothes, you're not deciding what you're eating, you're not take it all out, take all that energy down a notch, I would say, is one baby step.
Pull it out of the brain, because we're used to that thinking. Oh, that's very interesting.
Yes.
That would be in any kind of, right, as small as, right?
Yes, anytime you're trying to look for ways to conserve that energy even more, right? That brain battery. So yeah, so anyway, so eventually So oftentimes with concussions, it can really affect your vision system. So I did see a vision therapist, Dr. Corriveau, for a year and a half, every other week. She was wonderful. Because what was happening was there was that problem with taking in the periphery and the details of the vision system. So that's why teaching group classes was very difficult for me, because if there was a bunch of bodies in a room and legs and arms moving and things going in the periphery, it just, you would feel drunk, you would get the headaches, you wouldn't be able to spit your words out, you wouldn't be able to comprehend
It shifted your
instruction.
entire brain,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
literally, let alone energetically, right?
Yes.
Like
Now, again, there are things to help that, like wearing hoods, wearing hats, decreasing that periphery, knowing if you go in a big open room that, you know, you have to pace later. So there's, you know, there's ways around it. But again, in
and
hindsight,
this is what the visual doctor, or whatever his name was, I'm sorry, Cordova, that he
yes, the
taught
vision.
you these things.
Yes, definitely. Yes, through
Okay.
vision therapy and doing
Oh,
different memory games and working at having to be handed like written instructions and then have to follow, like remember to follow the instructions. So things like, you know, for you, going to your cookbook and looking at the recipe and following it and knowing, okay, I have to go to the cupboard and get this measuring cup and I have to, well, maybe you don't do
I
that.
was
You're
gonna
like, I
say,
don't
for
follow
others
recipes.
that are watching that cook, Dawn is a creative cook, so we'll hear about that another
Oh,
day.
your food
That's
is,
okay. It,
I daydream about your food, woman. And
understood though, for following instruction,
for
right?
following
Whatever
instructions,
that is. Yeah.
that was so unbelievably hard. And I can still remember 2 years later, like the first recipe that I did actually cook that was like no problem.
Wow.
It took a long time. And like, and again, that's not, when you are someone that is like busy entrepreneur, own your own business, used to doing 10 million things, and then suddenly you can't understand a recipe.
Right.
Someone, you have stress because someone at the DMV is like handing you a form and you then have to fill it out and you're just like, oh my goodness, how am I supposed to? It's a completely messed up thing to go through.
So, I mean, definitely brings you to mindfulness in a
Yes.
whole other
Mindfulness,
way. And I think,
meditation. Yes.
you know, you teach that now and part of your work. So, you know, let's talk about mindfulness a bit there. I think so many people are integrating it and bringing it into their lives, and sometimes maybe not even understanding that word, right? Like they think, okay, yeah, you want me to slow down and be mindful, great, whatever, right? And you do one or two small actions, when in fact, somebody like yourself who's dealing with, you know, concussion, you're having to slow down and truly find that care. So let's talk about that. And I think, audience, as you're listening to this part, I'm not sure what's going to come out, but when we see now other people, this is this compassion that needs to come forward. We're barreling right along, right? And forgetting we have no idea what someone else is going through, right? So yeah, so let's talk mindfulness enough. This is beautiful. Yeah.
Yes. And the other big thing that really helped that goes along with that, and that I did write about in Women Who Inspire, was the fact that this didn't happen to me, it happened for me. So I really developed that mantra right away, because I knew after it happened and after I realized all of the challenges at the beginning, there was a part of me that knew I was going to have to close my brick and mortar. So whether it was going to be a downsize or completely closing it. So having that mantra that you could sink into in the moment. So whether you're used to using affirmations, so mindfulness
Mhm.
affirmations, you know, writing down things on your mirror, on the post-it notes, to be able to tune into those positive redirections and
Mhm.
repatterns, that's a big thing. Having that mindfulness to just be in the moment, because especially, you know, after a concussion, going through any grief where you've lost parts of yourself, parts of your business, parts of duties that you may no longer be able to do, there can be a lot of, you know, if you're continually just letting your mind always go to what you've lost, like there has to be some way for you to get into that mindful moment of, okay, here I am in the present moment. How can I feel better right now?
You
Right.
know,
So
for anyone that's in the audience who's not familiar with using, you know, notes around the house, the, you know, lipstick on the mirror, or whatever it is, there is that energetics around, right? So what Lisa's saying, you're reframing, you're seeing new words, you're having to get these imprints entering into your field in order that you're starting to shift, right? Your
yeah.
mindset. So if you're not familiar with that, we absolutely encourage you to find out more about that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so key what is going in your input, what is going in, you know, what are you constantly watching on TV? Are you watching the news? Are you constantly speaking with people that are always complaining and always focused on the problems, right?
Mhm.
Are you focused on, at least, you know, my children nowadays that in school they're being taught about growth mindset and fixed mindset. And that's wonderful to see, right? It's so imperative to surround yourself around people that can keep you positive in the moment, you know, doing all those things that allow you to keep chasing your dreams and keep healing if you're going through something like that.
Right.
Yeah, so mindfulness, meditation, being able to just calm your mind, calm your body, being able to know that whatever you're going through, you have that internal reset tool of using the breath, right? So whether you're getting really stressed about something in the moment, just being able to anchor into those grounding breaths, that gratitude breath is imperative.
Right. And you chatted about this breathe into calm. Are you okay to do a little tiny exercise with us just right now?
Definitely, yeah, yeah,
Maybe
we
chat a little bit about the breathing to calm. I mean, certainly I'm familiar with using breathing, but let's share. There's so many different ways and things that
definitely. And
resonate. So let's
where I
share
come
some.
at it from is, and we'll talk a little bit about posture, because as I said,
Mm.
teaching Pilates for 20 years, think of that posture lengthening you up. So that's one aspect of it. But yeah, using breathing exercises to go from that feeling of chaos to calm. So using breathing exercises, visualizations, and then checking in with that posture. That's kind of the framework that I use for the breathing exercises there. So one that we could talk about is I call it the 3 wins breath. So what you're going to do, this is partly writing and partly breathing. And with the writing, you're going to, you know, whether you journal or bullet point or your note maker, whatever works for you, because everyone is different for how they use that written word. And what you want to do is start writing out small wins that you've had over your life. So maybe take one page and it's all just tiny wins that you've had. And then I want you to take another piece of paper and I want you to write down all your big wins, really big, proud things that you're proud accomplishments. Okay. And then as we work with the breath, you're getting into your comfortable position, and you can always do breathing exercises either laying down or seated. If it's something that you want to do, get more of a grounding effect, I would recommend more of a seated, feet on the ground. But you always want to go for comfort. So if you're having any discomfort in your body and laying down feels better, by all means, go for it, right? The most important thing is getting into the moment and relaxing and knowing that you have that inner tool to turn to when you need it, right? Sometimes just knowing that we have that internal ammunition is really gives us that power,
For
right?
sure. And I think, you know, just even saying that, I know for myself, and this isn't, I'm not going to go into a journey of my own, other than I know that there was a period of time that I was more, you know what, we're horizontal now, right? We need to breathe in that and understand that a lot of these postures, you want to be standing, but if that's where you're at in your life, start there, because the power of the breath is going to get that vitality back, right? So yeah.
Exactly. Yep, for sure. So you've taken that one paper of your small wins, you've taken that other paper of your big wins. So you've got that on your mind, those accomplishments, proud moments. And then just in that comfortable seated position or laying down position, focusing as you inhale, you're thinking about the small wins, something on that paper. As you exhale, you're thinking about something on that big win paper. So inhale, visualizing that small win, exhale, visualizing that big win. And again, it's just getting that brain back into that I'm a winner. I am not a whiner. I am a warrior. I am not a victim. I am a victor, right? Sometimes we really need to take some ownership and
yeah. Well, and then this is what this whole self-love is all about. It's finding, okay, I've got to do this for me. Who else is going to do it for me? Right.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we get ourselves in these situations and we forget how much we really are these creators in our lives. And that's okay. But it's exactly what you're saying. That sort of, and again, you can't push so far at the spectrum. It needs time to get there. Right.
Yeah. But yeah, just giving yourself that self-love to commit to a daily practice of meditation, like that's huge, you know, or whether it's a daily practice of drinking more water, moving your body, meditating, you know, reaching out to someone else, like helping other people. There's so many ways to get into a good daily routine where you know you're being the best version of yourself today.
Right. Well, and I think it's beautiful because even as you chat about posture, I'm like, okay, right. And I think that's everyone. It's this awareness of where it is, because we can easily, right. And certainly during these times, people are at their desk and at home and whatever, and you're sort of moving through your world in a very different way. But it's like being so cognizant of that, you know, the posture, because it'll reflect, you know, your voice opens, your chest opens, your fluidity changes, whatever, right? So
well, even I can remember back to having my babies, I can remember reading research about different pain response if you are laying in the fetal position versus if you have lovely posture. And yes, from personal experience, I can say like sitting up on a birthing ball and having that posture instead of feeling like, you know, there was no laying in a bed. It was
right. And that's simple for everyone, right? And I think, you know, sometimes we get in this overwhelm of, oh my God, I have these things to heal and there's something wrong with me and whatever, instead of all of these, like you're saying, 3 wins. How long does that practice take?
Yeah.
Not 5 minutes. Right? Like truly, and to say, you know what, if it's even okay, now that the posture, here we go. You know, I think one of the things, again, through all of this past year, and who knows where we're headed with what I call C19. I prefer that, but it's, you know, you hear put on an outfit, otherwise everybody's in their pajamas, and that alone is an imprint. You're like, oh, I can be in my pajamas, whatever. And I'm like, for sure you can, but you know, and this is a choice for people, absolutely. But it's like, where is that making you feel, right? If you can stand proud in your PJs and be like, I'm going to work in my pajamas, this is fabulous, versus, oh yeah, I can relax and do my work. You're embodying something very different, right?
Yeah, and that's part of what we teach in the program that has to do with your self-love, is hitting on that energy and how important it is to check your energy, check how you're radiating. When you enter a room, what is it that you are sending out? Right? Like
and that's an intention that you're putting forward.
Yes. Right? Yes. And it's a setting that intention to raise your, you know, we've heard raise your vibration. That might be putting on music, dancing around your house. It might be doing artwork. It might be allowing yourself to be creative, or, you know, there's so many different ways.
This entire reunion is all about that. But let's chat about this. You know, one of the big things that you're here, you've been an author, you know, co-creating community book. Let's talk about the gratitude practice, and then let's talk about this new work where you're now helping other people to write stories and share their story and write that new story, right? So let's dig into that a bit. So, you know, the gratitude.
So gratitude, definitely 100% hands down, daily, non-negotiable. So
okay.
Right. Yeah. So writing.
And it's funny because and I go through these periods. I'm like, of course, I just say mine out loud, and it's funny because
Yeah.
I'm a sticky note person. Otherwise, people who know me, I've got papers everywhere, and I let things out, and I feel them and whatever. But to truly have that gratitude journal sitting there, and I do other practices, but I think it's very key. So yeah.
I mean, definitely, if you're going to hear me say, get a gratitude journal and write it out, and all your mind is going to say is, no writing, no, I'm not writing, I'm not. Resistance, sure, then you are going to sit there and you're going to think and visualize those 10 things that you're grateful for, like madly, deeply, and feel it, right? But ideally, yeah, pen to paper.
Because pen to paper, as they say, when you can put this down, that's another imprint, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So then give us
So
some gratitude. Yeah.
yeah, and so this
Gratitude.
I just want to show. So that's the book, Celebrating
Yeah, yay.
5 Days of Gratitude, that I
Congratulations.
wrote a piece in about gratitude. So yeah, daily gratitude. I think it's really, really important. Write that down, embody it, feel it, think it. Very important practice. Again, another breathing exercise we do is simply the gratitude breath. So once you've written down those gratitudes, just taking that time to breathe in those intentions of really thinking of that gratitude, right? So giving it that extra time and breath and commitment that way. That is huge. And for me, so with writing, with the book Women Who Inspire, which is behind me here, with being a contributor in that book.
You'll have to turn it a little bit down a little. Yeah, there we go.
How's that?
I can see it. Yeah.
So, and there we all are in the back there. So my publisher, Kate Butler, that was such a wonderful experience. And for me, the reason why I now am I have some of my workshops and courses that are geared to this rewrite your story and write your story is it was such a mental health saving opportunity for me. So right after I did injure my head and I knew that I probably was going to have to either downsize my studio or close it, which was very hard. I'd had it for 11 years at the time. So I knew that was something that I was not looking forward to having to do. So when I saw the opportunity that Kate had already had the first book, Women Who Ignite, and when I realized through Facebook, a Facebook post that, I didn't actually know her, I just knew her online, we're friends on Facebook, that she was looking for authors for this next book, there was something in me right away that knew, oh, I'm meant to do this. And I mean, this was, I don't know, maybe 6 months after the injury. So I was very deep into those symptoms, like daily headaches, daily, couldn't be around noise, lights, like there was a lot of cognition things and okay. But I because I couldn't teach the Pilates classes, I still was very, very mindful that I knew that I really needed to do personal development and professional development to really keep those inputs positive, right? I knew that I really needed to do anything I could on mindset. I was really eager to learn different things about my business that I didn't ever have time to before the injury. So whether it was things on my website, or things with like just different tech programs and email marketing and, hooking up opt-ins and funnels and all that stuff. So for me, seeing that opportunity to be a part of the book, I just knew in my heart that it was, completely meant to be. So in hindsight, just being able to have a new opportunity, it opens so many doors with public speaking. And, I've been on TV speaking about how to be productive and positive through post-concussion, speaking on stage. So it really opened up a lot of other doors that as a Pilates instructor with a brick and mortar, it was a great, new page to kind of step into, right? So for me, just having that, being able to give myself that gift of realizing that it's important to share your story. It's important to serve others, to, if you've gone through something, a hardship in any way, to be able to give a bit of advice or tips or help to other people that are going through it as well. that's really important to me, like having that sense of purpose and service and knowing that every morning that I wake up, like I was meant to wake up, right? I have a reason that I'm here. And I think everyone that wakes up every day, like we have a reason to be here. And we need to be thankful and grateful, and it goes
Gratitude
on and on.
#1 every day.
Yeah. So yeah, that was such a gift. And then of course it opened a whole community of women that, there's several books now that are in the series. So just opening up to a whole other community of like-minded women that are, have dreams and goals and things that they're really going for, and helping others, and everyone has such different backgrounds and stories. So yeah, I just feel like it's really important to be able to share your story and help others. And for now, I find where sometimes we in life we're going along and maybe we can have a certain problem that seems to keep arising and coming up, and sometimes it's just that we're just keep going over those same patterns and those same habits, and sometimes it's just making little baby changes. Sometimes we need drastic changes, but sometimes just making those baby changes and having that accountability and support and scheduling in those changes, like sometimes that's all we need to make like big leaps. So for me, this rewrite your story, like you don't have to be wanting to write a book. It may be someone that, maybe you're at home and you realize that you are having those internal patterns and dialogues that maybe aren't serving you to the best of that you could be living your optimal life. So recognizing that, and recognizing that maybe there are some, daily things that you could work into your life to get on that healthier track or that more optimal life. And then whether, you might be someone that is looking to blog more or use more of your writing for posting on social media. Or you might want to as well, write ebooks or contribute or write your own book. So looking at the daily things that can really structure your day through the gratitude, through looking at things that you want to do for your posture. And again, whether you're on your computer all day or whether you're doing a mix of daily activities, being able to see what your posture does during the day, right? So if you're the type of person that every time you walk by your mirror and you realize, oh, my shoulders are up by my ears, and you always have this tension in your neck, sometimes just being aware of, how much you're slouching or rounding forward, and,
Well, I'm
so
laughing doing this. I have, I see myself then and I'm like, oh, wow, right? Yeah. So funny. It's true. It's like, okay, I gotta change that, right? Without it being a big deal, right? It's like, it's still me. It's just like, oh, if I want to, that's where it has to come from, right? Not
yes.
someone else.
And even
Again, self-love, not someone else telling you, hey, your posture needs to change. Yes,
no.
certainly if that's a health concern, because when you're too much like this, it's like those things are, we know that our body is meant to be in an alignment. It's just to be, take that breath and realign. So,
Exactly.
yeah, going back to the story, because I love the fact, and I know how I've had to write a new story and then live the new story and understand that it takes time, right? I think putting that pen to paper with the intention, like anything, is the first thing. So let's talk about, if somebody were to want to actually write a story, and again, stories are whatever that is, that could be poetry to a book to whatever, but how much time do we take to do this? Because I think when you think of, oh, but they're an author, so they knew how to do it, we forget the world has changed so much. You getting your voice out there and just using your expression is the first thing, and it's meant for you, right? Because then you see yourself again potentially in 5 years, or you might write that and not go back to it and find it, I don't care, 3 years, 10 years, 2 months later, right? So how do you, navigate that and help people understand?
Well, again, the big thing is getting that commitment to gratitude so that you're really showing up in that daily understanding and knowing that, you're here for a purpose and you have that thankful feeling is a big thing, for sure. So starting with that. and always coming back to the energy, because that's a big thing on, you know, how you want to show up, what are you radiating to other people. If you're going to be, whether you're writing a blog post or social media stuff or poem or anything, being able to really think, you know, how do you want your reader to feel? Like, how do you want them to feel? Like, think back to that whole like first impressions, right? When we meet someone, like, you know, you get that gut feeling of how that person made you feel when you met them. So really get into embody, like think about qualities of people that you, your mentors or people that you respect or people that you just, you have that, you feel that love energy around. What is it that they did or said, or what was it that they, why did they make you feel that way? Right? And really be able to dissect that. That's one thing. And then just being more mindful. Anytime you're taking that time to meditate, be mindful, you're going to get to know yourself better. You're going to get to know your rhythms and your routines. So whether writing is something that you maybe want to sit down and tackle in the morning before anyone else is around in your home or whatever, or a certain time, like what it looks like outside. Maybe you want to get up before the sun rises. Maybe you are, you know, someone that takes time during the day or at the end of the day. So knowing your rhythms and your energy for what works best for when you're most creative, and work with that. So don't just say like, I'm going to sit down on Monday at 9 a.m. if that's not creatively what works for you. I would say that is a big thing. Also knowing that whenever we're going on TV to speak on something, going on a podcast, YouTube, Facebook, writing in a social media, whatever it is, when you really know that it is not about you, like what you are putting out in the world is not about you, it's about that service that you're meant to send out to someone, right? There's someone that's meant to hear what you have to say and kind of what you're meant to deliver at that moment, right? It's that kind of two-way energetic street, and we're all like meant to be in each other's world, I think, for a reason, right? Getting things out of, like, learning lessons and that.
And we forget that. We, you know, that's I think what the brilliance of what many people in the world are just discovering. It's those little nuggets. I ran into that person and I heard that thing I needed. Oh, that's the nugget I needed, right?
Yeah.
You know, and back to the, you never know when you're going to get the lesson. It's because you probably heard lots of little nuggets, and it's like, no, right? Because, right, this is this internal dialogue. This is this internal self-love, right? Yeah. So then, but even as you're saying, and I certainly didn't mean to cut you off if I shifted where you were at, but we talk about that story even as a book, but even let's look at that story or on social or whatever, but even in that story, for as you're meeting people. Now, we're certainly not there quite yet, but we're not out in the world in the same way. But we are on social media. We're in different groups. It's saying, as you slowly write that new part of the story, you're able to embody it, but don't go so far ahead, right? Because I think that's then where the mind is like,
inevitable that you will show up differently when you're focused on that growth mindset, right? When you're focused on being committed to living a new life, living a healthier life, changing the story, not being a victim, whatever it is in that moment, right? Yeah, there's definitely, you know, committing to looking on the bright side, being thankful.
So when you talked about, you know, finding that time of day, perfect, because absolutely, right? You like anything, we have to find, where do we put that? How much time? I mean, how much time does one need to spend? And I mean, time's arbitrary, but not. I mean, a lot of people think, oh my God, I have no time already, right? And yet, again, that's language to change. Part of it, and part of it, appreciating that is the part of your journey that you're on now, being grateful for that part, and potentially saying, doesn't matter if it's a sticky note on the fridge and I'm going to write the story, I'm going to write a line, right?
Yeah. So I would say for everyone, whatever you're using it for, you are going to start with a personal 30-day commitment. You're going
Great.
to make a commitment to yourself, and if you're doing it in a group or in a program, to your accountability partners community, that you are going to take that 30 days to write your gratitudes every day, sit in meditation every day, work at the meditation, visualization, setting intentions, being able to show up and help serve and help others. There's different ways to do that, different ways to check in on that energy and what you're radiating out to others. And then depending on the project, right? So if you're using this for just more of that internal dialogue, as I said, starting with that 30-day commitment of these daily things and habits that you're going to want to do to just change those internal patterns and internal habits and really
Because
get you
it's
more
not like I'm
self-care.
just jumping in and writing the book. Sure, you might get that, but it's to start even in that journaling process almost, right?
Exactly. And
To
just
get
that
that
being
comfort, to
thankful
get the
and
comfort.
yeah, and being mindful of your schedule. So really taking that time to know what you need to get done for your morning routine, your evening routine, your specific goals and tasks, like really being mindful of the time it takes to do those, getting them into your schedule, looking at those priorities. So you're not suddenly, I'm going to write this book and bye-bye family, I'm locked in my room no, come on, right? We have to be mindful of our priorities and our, well, maybe some people do that and that's fine. Go ahead, do
Yeah,
what.
and it is, but I
But,
think it's,
if we're doing this for, we've got to be mindful of our priorities and things like that. And our energy, as I said, so being that person that, radiates that helpfulness, that I want to serve others, that I am thankful, I'm grateful, we have a purpose, right? There are a lot of daily things just to have you staying in that mindset, right?
Mhm.
That accountability. But yeah, getting things on your calendar is huge, scheduling it in. Depending on the project, I mean, certain things, if you're writing a chapter, you might have done certain prep work before. And I have certain timeline prep things that are pretty fun that we get into in the course, but it takes a lot more time to get into it. So being able to like that, you might sit down and write that in 2 hours and that project is done, and then it's going to the editor and there's other things there. So depending on the project, right, is going to depend on your timing. But I would say everyone, whether it's for personal, whether it's for business, whether it's for your platform, committing to that, writing out your gratitudes, meditating, visualizing, moving your body, drinking more water, right? All the health things, all the better habits. And if you're slipping, be real with yourself and get your accountability partners. We're not meant to do this on our own. We're not meant to do this all stressed and upset and let's have fun. Let's lock arms and do it together.
And I like that you bring that up. So there's a couple of things. You spoke on community. I think the thing we all are innate. We have an innate essence in us. We all want to belong, right? So it's finding that community, and community can be such a big faceless thing for some people, and others it can be, oh my God, I'm so into so many groups and I don't feel community.
Yeah.
So, right. So it truly is finding what works. And then I love the accountability part. And I think two things come from that. And I'd love to hear you sort of share. It's the accountability with either someone in this community, a few people within the community, and then there's accountability to yourself, right?
Yeah.
So in your work, so let's talk about accountability a little bit. And then in your work, you actually layer that in, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of that.
You need to show your brain that you can win. If you are constantly showing your brain that you're going to keep giving up on yourself and you're going to keep saying, oh, I'm going to meditate every day, and then 3 days in you stop, and that's what you keep doing every single time, or whether it comes to eating or exercise or accomplishing any goal, right? So so having that I will do this, I will not give up on myself. And we talked before about how there's so much self-love in just that commitment alone to yourself, that you're not going to give up on yourself. You're not going to quit. You're not going to, right?
And that is a hard one. I do feel for anyone because, and again, everybody's on different layers, right?
Yeah.
And whoever in this audience, it might even be somebody just that, it's like, it's giving people that time, but giving them something, even if it's that watching you do it and or saying, you know what, I just know that I need to do this, and just make it, I'm not going to say nonchalant, put the intention that they're going to receive it the right way. And if they're meant to, right? But
Yeah.
it's so key. It's so key in that.
Yeah. And in the post-concussion world, with the post-concussion symptoms, just when it comes to like community and support, like as I said in the beginning of our conversation, it was my husband and I. It happened at my house. I was self-employed. There was no other people telling us what we should or shouldn't do, like in terms of a boss or WSIB or whatever. I had one of his friends' wife called me in the beginning to say, like, please, like, take 2 weeks off, like whatever you do, like, don't go into work for 2 weeks, like do this, do that. And that was so helpful, and it meant so much to me, because I've never been through, I had never had headaches before that. I'm a little bit of a dainty person, so I'm not really a sporty person. So I had never had my head knocked around like that, right? I wasn't. So it was very new to me. So yeah.
Grow up with brothers. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. All brothers out there might have just
so having that, like, knowing that you can turn to someone that has been through it before you. So sometimes being able to pick up a book like this, where someone has written a chapter, contributed, where you can read something where someone has gotten through those things, and, maybe certain tips that you can turn around and share, like, that is gold, right? It's really helpful.
Writing can be such a fun project also, right? Like if you take it from that lens of,
and the book is just that one thing. Like, we had beautiful events in Philadelphia at the Union League of Philadelphia. The mayor of Philly was there, like so many fun book signings and speaking engagements. And
and that might not be for anyone. I'm laughing from the space of, for anyone out there that, if there's a woman, a man, whatever, I want to write something for my children. It doesn't matter if you want to write a children's story. I was smiling as you were talking because my grandmother, excuse me, I'll share a little really quick. When my grandfather passed away, and she went through the, the funeral, Now, this is years ago. She's passed along now for a number of years, but she decided, I know how much struggle it was to just deal with his funeral and death and whatever. And she's like, I'm going to plan my entire funeral, and I'm going to write my own obituary. Right. Okay. So in that process, and again, back in the day, you had the newspaper, you opened it up and you read the obituary, which one of my friends, blah, blah, blah. She would literally open it up and start to write, oh, I like that. I want people, oh, I hope that, right? Well, she lived to 101. So whether part of that comes, right? She always had a beautiful mindset, right? But again, and we can share, your days are still up and down, right? You're not always on. We're not always positive. But by having these practices in place, we are able to turn that around.
Yes. And just knowing you have those tools, definitely. And then those days that maybe you do have a day where you aren't, you are having a lull and you're not getting some of those things crossed off the list. Maybe when it's into the second day and you're still you're not getting those good things done, well, being able to see, okay, wait a second, take a step back out of the jar. What tools do I have to get through this sticky time? And then let's anchor them in, get them in the calendar. If we're not doing them, get some accountability. Say to your best friend, like, I need to get these workouts done every day. Like, hold me to it.
And honoring, because I think part of the self-love also comes from honoring that if today is an energetic down day for some apparent reason, that's okay. Definitely. But understand, what, have I used some of my practices? And even early on, one of the things I jotted and it's coming back to me, we talk about gratitude a lot, right? And you obviously have been in this book and you use that as a big space. And people often share, write your gratitudes in the morning. It sets your day off to the right foot, whatever else. Beautiful. Love it. I do my meditation every morning. I do my walk every morning. There. What happens, I think, for people until they truly get into that fullness of committing and knowing, you may be someone that needs to drop gratitude in 3 times a day, right? And truly put it in your phone and stop. Take that 1 minute. Like if the commitment is, I maybe don't have a lot of time, but if I could give myself 3 1 minutes, right? Okay, seriously, we have 1 minute for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, put that in your phone as a marker, right? And I'm going to stop for 1 minute, that moment of silence, whatever it is, and just be grateful for that thing. And if you can't come up with something, because again, you're in a spiral of something, use a previous one, right?
Yep.
Find a few that are those anchor points like you speak of, right? And use those. Yeah. Because we can't, that's not the word. We need to honor the fact that part of self-love comes in this flow, right?
Yeah. And I know we did talk about the writing before, but even, in those moments, if you needed to take your phone and do a voice memo, like in your note or in Google or whatever, just to at least, if you're, whatever, not driving, I didn't say that. If you're somewhere.
Hi Siri, can you just put on my audio? Then yes, but whatever, yeah.
Yeah. And even that comes to writing as well. Like sometimes it's like, just get started. And if you're working if it's a business task or something like that, where you just want to get started, or you're writing that legacy thing or a children's book or whatever, sometimes just getting your ideas out there, speaking them via video, and then going back and getting the ideas you spewed out. If you're good at talking and just getting your ideas out and kind of on fire that way, speak them out on a video to yourself and then get those ideas down that way. So there are other ways to, and we talk about that in the program, there are other ways to really get those creative juices flowing that maybe it lets you think outside of the box, so that if you're thinking like, oh, I'm not a good writer, I'm not strong, or my grammar's poor, just start, just get going, just get it out there, and you might surprise yourself.
Yeah. No, I love that. I was doing this because I'm like, if I'm out walking, I might need to sing it. I might need to say it. There's some days I pick up my phone and then I may never go back to that audio, but I'm like, I needed to say it in that moment. And that sometimes is no different than we spoke of, putting that thought to paper. You've seen it again. Hearing yourself say it is its own resonance, right? We're learning this whole resonance of who we are. It's awesome. I love it. Okay, so because we're now coming to this end together, but if I want to ask you, maybe if there's a word or a phrase or something that, people have listened to this and they say, okay, what is that? What do you want to leave them with? Something around the self-love is this art, right? You're the arts and the artist all at the same time. But if they are to remember you and your words, what could they share and just hold there in terms of self-love?
Yeah, for me, it was the one thing that helped me so much through that injury was that mantra that this didn't happen to me, it happened for me. And so, in anything, if you can try to turn it around and look at something that has made you a better person because of that challenge, it will just help anchor you into that growth mindset and looking forward, and that's it's the place to be.
Yeah, it's so true. That's beautiful, and it's a journey in and of itself to get there, right? So, thank you. Well, I appreciate this very much, and
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, don't go too far, everyone, because what you'll do in the next video, Lisa's going to put together something beautiful for you in this collection of at-home solutions, so that you can start along some writing and really delve into just a few tips that you can use and truly use to help you anchor what we've spoke about. So thank you again. We will see you very soon and look forward to Lisa's part in our collection. So take care.